I recently completed Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice, and that was the last of 8 Ace Attorney games that I have gone through. For the past year, I've been completing through all the games, because I played the first one, I got it randomly on the 3DS eShop, and I just couldn't stop, dude. I love this series. So today, we are going to be ranking the characters, the cases, the music, and finally the games. Also, spoilers everywhere. If you haven't played all of these games before, do not watch this video. I would be worse than any of the criminals in these games to spoil them for you. So if you haven't played them, I appreciate you for stopping by, but get the fuck out of here. Also, I haven't played either of the Great Ace Attorney games or the crossover. Just an FYI. Let's get started. First one, very easy S tier, dude. Phoenix is kind of cheating because like he's had so many games to develop. Of course he's S tier, dude. He's done so much shit. Apollo is a mess. He has about as many backstories as migraines that I got while playing his game. Athena is A tier. She's actually really good. I really enjoyed her in Dual Destinies, and then she was basically not there in Spirit of Justice, but oh well. Trucy is interest. Kind of same thing as Apollo, honestly. They're both. They both have really good moments, and they both have what the fuck moments. Raifa and Nayuta actually have the same problem. They're both bootlegs of characters that have been done better before. Let's see if I don't know where he is. Oh, here he is. Sebastian. Raifa is just worse Sebastian, and Nayuta is just worse Blackwell, dude. They've just had it done better before, so when their big moments came, it was like, okay, cool. Where the fuck do I even put the dog? You know what? Dog's S tier. Yeah. Dude, how the fuck do you say this character's name? What is Sheeshlub Amsterdam? I called him Amsterdam when I played it, because I have no idea, dude. Anyways, Bunny Girl. She's actually pretty decent. Oh, Discord. That's a rebel is the funniest fucking character in the entire series. I don't care what y'all say. He is amazing. I'm just gonna put up on screen some of his animations, dude. They crack me up every time. I read somewhere that people just think of him as better Larry, and I'm inclined to agree because while he is also a goofball, he knows what his goals are, and he is dedicated to his work, and that is respectable. Simon Blackwell is really good. Just like I pair him and Athena like right next to each other. He actually reminds me a lot of Edgeworth, because not only because they both have incredibly dark backstories, but they're both tough as shit, but they're also both really fair, and you gotta respect that. I crack up when like a witness is lying and a Blackwell just gets pissed. That's awesome. I love Dirk. He's just the ultimate dad. Prove me wrong. I just really like his concept. He kind of gets pushed to the wayside just because of the second half of the last case, but he's pretty cool. This S tier is obvious bias because I just love the original trilogy, dude. So good. Edgeworth is incredible. For the same reason as Phoenix, he's just had so much development and growth. He's come so far as a character. At the end of Investigations 2, I want to save people as a prosecutor, that bullshit. It was still really good. Love Edgeworth. I feel like I would have liked him a lot more if he got more screen time, because he died. So we don't know. I liked what I saw, but we just didn't have enough of him. Still, yeah. Her. Y'all notice that I'm just saying her and him a lot because I don't want to bother remembering their name. Very stereotypical villain, but he gets the job done. I feel like he serves his purpose. He does his job. I like him. Dude, Box Girl, I don't care what y'all say. This character's fucking hilarious. And when she switches boxes, oh my god, dude. He just is boring. It's just, yup. You meet him for the first time, yup. That's the villain. Okay, I'm just gonna rank this as the Phantom rather than Bobby Fulbright. Just holy shit, dude. I still get chills from his breakdown. He's the second greatest reveal in the series because it's just so unexpected. But it also makes sense. Having the detective be a villain is something that had never been done before, and it's just really cool. I love the Phantom, dude, and we'll never see his true face, and I just think that's terrifying and badass. Robin Newman gets the award for biggest what the fuck, because, okay, she's a girl. Cool. Sure. Marlon Rhymes is another out of left field character. I think his motive is actually really believable. He's just pissed off at the whale for killing his fucking girlfriend, dude. I'd be pissed too. But yeah, and the fact that he actually didn't get convicted at the end because we proved that it wasn't murder, I just really like that. I actually really like Juniper Woods. Again, with the Case 3 shit, I just really like all of these characters. They all have their own quirks, and it just works. That rhymed. Javier. It's just the Apollo Justice cast, man. They really have their problems. They really do. Clavier is too nice. A prosecutor is supposed to be, like, something that you want to be. Clavier is just your fucking friend during the trial, dude, and it's just not fun. Grab a penguin. Penguin's S tier too? All the animals just get S tier, alright? I feel like people can't really disagree with that one. He's pretty funny, but he's also just kinda... Also, I totally thought he just slapped Apollo's dick at the start, and that was just funny. Again, with just the Case 3 of Dual Destinies, literally every character from Case 3 of Dual Destinies. Just really solid, has good motivations, well, except for, Dr. Crab. Pretty good fake out. I honestly, since I didn't know like how complicated the DLC case would be, I was just like, okay, I guess it's him. And then it wasn't. So I like that. Adrian Andrews is nice. In more ways than one. Her social problems that she then overcomes, you help her overcome them. It's really sweet. Luke Abney's really funny. He's funny, good villain. The fact that he just repeats his breakdown, that's hilarious. Angel Star. She's just April May, but better. Speaking of April May, this character is a one-off. Blaze the Best. I didn't think we'd be doing this already. He is a scary villain. He is really intimidating, and I really like that about him. Great. Like, it's pretty obvious that he is the villain, but I really don't have a problem with that. Because he just pulls off his evilness really well. Love Blaze the Best. Valent, or is it Valorant? Nope, that's the shooter game. You. Oh, Lord. This is a great villain. I said Blaze the Best was intimidating. Multiply that by a factor of 5 for Dahlia, dude. She is fucking terrifying. This is one of the worst villains in the series, dude. You know what? His character design is awful.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the...
Joe Dark. We never met him. Here's what we gotta do. Easy clap, easy clap. Wait, who is this? Have I ever seen this sprite before? Am I just forgetting something? Who is this? Okay. Oh, Misty Faye, otherwise known as Elise. Something. I only know her for a little bit, and I made that complaint with Igna, but what we do have, the time that we do have with her is really good, and just her identity alone kind of pushes it up a little bit. Damon Gant. Okay, I feel like that's an S tier. What a solid villain, dude. He does everything about a villain, right? Intimidation, secrecy, personality. Not you. I am tempted to make him F, but I guess I'll make him the bottom of D. Kristoff if Apollo is a mess, like a mess in your room, then Kristoff is the entire room exploded into pieces, dude. His motivation still makes no sense to me. It's everything about him is not. They tried. They really tried with Kristoff, but they failed. Oh, dude, Shelly the Killer is a fucking badass. Bad is he's actually pretty good. He's a very moral detective, but the fact that he was a villain at the end made no sense to me. It was kind of just, oh, okay. Then they brought him back in Investigations too, in the past, but still. It was kind of like, am I supposed to hate you or not? Honestly thought that this guy was going to be the villain at the start, but then he just wasn't. He's just a really nice guy, which is cool. Like, Dead Man, for his name alone, gets a S-tier knocking. Francisca is probably on the weaker side of prosecutors, but even with that said, I still just really like her. I would definitely be saying something different if she was only in like one game, because it definitely helps that she's had multiple games. Dick Gumshoe is incredible, and I just want him to be happy. And if anything bad happens to Gumshoe, then we're gonna have some problems. I hate this guy. I think this is the first F tier. He's just an asshole. No, he's not even an asshole. He's just a whiny brat. His fucking breakdown is just him crying. Shut up. I know people shit on Investigations 1, but I had a better time with it than most people. I actually liked Callisto as a villain. She was twisted as fuck. You loved to hate her because she was so twisted. I think I'll keep him B tier because he fit into a very specific stereotype, and while he kept to it and played it really well, he's nothing more than that, unfortunately. Kay is a lot better than people give her credit for, and I'm not just talking about Investigations 2. Investigations 1 too. She's pretty solid as an assistant. I think she falls flat compared to literally every other assistant, but she's still really good. Wendy Oldbag, I don't like her as much as other people. Same thing as Meekins, actually. She's a little bit too obnoxious, and to the point where it becomes unenjoyable. Shilong Lang, same thing as Kay. People don't give this guy enough credit, and both of them just became a lot better in Investigations too. I liked Lang a lot. This guy's weird, and it's not enjoyable weird, he's just weird. His theme slaps though. And we finally arrived, the greatest character in the entire series. I think you could make the argument for Edgeworth or Phoenix, or anyone in S tier, honestly, but Godot is just on another level, dude. Is it Godot, Godot, Diego Armando? Who cares, dude? His theme is amazing. You feel bad for him more than anyone else. Like, it's Acrobat and Marlon Rhymes on a whole nother level, dude. You feel for this guy. He really cares for Mia, and Mia really cared for him. And it's just beautiful, dude. All of his quotes are phenomenal. I almost didn't recognize him at first because he didn't have his hat. Yeah, he sucks. He did die, but we got to know him for a little bit, so I'll count him. This guy scares me. He is fucking terrifying. Gene Armstrong? No, get it away from me. Get him away from me too. Victor Kudo. I like him more than Wendy Oldbeck. When Maya tried to put on the costume to convince him to talk, and then he wouldn't do it, and then Mia rolled up, I had to close my 3DS after that. That was just incredible. Zach
Grammary.
Zach Grammary is an asshole. He leaves his kid, he fucking dips for a few years, and then he dies, even though he knew he was innocent. I don't know what's wrong with this dude. I don't understand why he did anything that he did. Dane Gustavia is a sick villain, dude. I'm still mad at myself for not realizing it sooner, because he had his own theme. And I didn't think about that, because if I just remembered that he had his own theme, I would have known. Because he would have had to come back for his theme to play, because they're not just going to make a theme and have it play once. This character has a lot of problems, but I'll put him next to one of her husbands. She just has a lot of issues with the plot. I think as a character, she's still mediocre. And the fact that she came back after Spirit of Justice, after the end, meaning that she knew what she was doing, that she got her memories back, and still decided to abandon her kids, much like her father. Fuck both of Trucy's parents, honestly. Lotta Heart is a classic. Lotta Heart is the gold standard for witnesses, dude. She's just quirky and funny, but she still is honest. Well, she's not honest. Not honest, but like, she has the right intentions. Unless she just wants a scoop. But again, that's just funny. Maggie Bird is... yeah, she's B. Really solid defendant character. She's actually one of the better characters from Apollo Justice. Mostly because her character just makes sense as being a sheltered daughter. It just makes sense, and she pulls it off pretty well. I like her. Desiree Delight, I'd say I put her right with her husband. She's, I think, one part of the thing that makes both these characters good is the fact that they're married. Just their interactions are hilarious. It kind of reminds me of Back to the Future. The way that they came together. I think it's pretty funny and pretty cute, honestly. I hate this character. You know how I just said? What did I just say? I said Maggie Bird was a perfect defendant. Machi Tobai is the worst defendant in the series, dude. I don't understand his motivations. Why he does anything that he does. Patricia Rowland is a pretty solid villain. And she set the standard for investigations too. She set the standard of, you're not gonna know who the villain is until the very end. You can't guess it, and that's just how this game works. And from then on, I knew I was playing a good game. Russian lady. I think the Russian thing is just funny before she takes off the thing. Takes off all of her Russian stuff. When she does take off the Russian stuff, she actually becomes more boring. Oh, Matt Ongard. Oof. Much like Dahlia, much like Blaze, just really intimidating. And you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't mess with this guy, but I gotta. I really like him. Little gay man. Yeah, I hate him. Mia is just so sweet, so caring. She cares about everyone. And Godot is just a Chad. These two are perfection. Bootleg Lotta Heart is actually pretty good. She ends up being her own thing, instead of just being a Lotta clone. So, I think I'll make her B, but really, actually pretty solid. More solid than I thought. I don't remember how to say her name, dude. Ahila, Tequila, Taquito. I don't know, man. She's C. I don't like Mo. He's just obnoxious and not in a funny way, despite his moniker. My only disappointment with Trials and Tribulations was that we didn't get to actually see Morgan Fay. Because she is a twisted motherfucker. And much like Callisto, much like Von Karma, I think that has some merit. Much like Dahlia, actually. Knightley. Dude, when I first saw this guy, yo, anyone else see this? Why do they look so similar? Their hairstyles, dude. Yellow thing on top of just bald black stuff. They look so similar. This still trips me up to this day, dude. What the fuck happened here? Horace Knightley is pretty good, though. First girl is Beesh. I think the fact that she's randomly an accomplice is pretty weird. Easily the most tragic character in the series. I forgot his name, but the fact that he has a mental illness and he was just taken advantage of like that, ended up killing himself, truly a tragic character, and it's played really well. Winston Payne's a classic. Wait, oh no, where did I drop him? Okay, right here. He's not dead. Much like Horace and Luke Atme. Look at these two. There's some relation going on here, I'm sure of it. I think if Red White didn't kill Mia, then I wouldn't care. But it's the fact that he's so related, simply because he killed Mia, that it takes him up a notch. This 16-year-old girl is being harassed by like 20-year-olds. That was creepy, but she's okay. Dude, Doggin is much like, he's a lot like Shelly. They have a lot of similarities in the sense of you just don't want to fuck with them because they would fuck your shit up. If you piss them off, it's over. It's over. They're just gone. You're gone. And that's awesome. His animations are just pretty funny in general. And the bear is awesome. So I'd say A tier. Simon Keys. You know how I said the Phantom was the second best reveal? Simon Keys' reveal as the final villain of Investigations 2 was legendary. And his transformation into the Joker, love him as a villain. Best fake out villain, best like unexpected, crazy reveal in the series, dude. Wow. Walkie Talkie can fuck off. Much like Machi, just I don't like these guys, and I had zero motivation to defend them, other than to get the game over with so I can play Dual Destinies. I would hug old Raymond Shields, dude. He is sick. But he's a lot like Dats, actually, which I didn't think I'd be comparing Raymond Shields and Dats a Rebel today, but they're both goofballs, but they both are serious when they need to be. I don't care that he's dead. I'm putting him in F tier because he's a fucking asshole. He set up both of his prodigies just to get screwed over. He was an ass to, what's his name, Mr. Rees. I don't like him. Yanni Yogi, much like some other characters on this list, merely is on A just because the story surrounding him is so good. The fact that he kept it secret, he was pretty obvious looking back, but in the moment, since it was the first Ace Attorney game, I wasn't used to like what to expect. So Yanni Yogi still caught me by surprise. When he stood up, dude, with like when looking all pissed off, I was like, oh shit. Sebastian gets S tier. And he gets S tier purely because of the last case and what he did to Blaze. Sebastian gets the award for greatest redemption in the series. He goes from being a one-off character, much like Larry. He is Larry. You don't like him because he's just annoying. And I know I keep comparing it to Larry. I actually do like Larry, but that's just the gold standard for annoying people. He's just so annoying at first, and you think that he's just going to be written off, but when he stood up to his father, and he, together with Miles, took down Blaze, that was incredible. And it just goes to show how good Grand Turnabout was. Furio Tigre is hilarious. The fact that he somehow managed to get away with the cardboard badge bullshit, that's just funny, dude. And that is it for the characters. There's a lot of them. I'm gonna reorganize them. I don't think I'm gonna put them in order.
One eternity later.
Okay, so turns out I totally put it all in order because I'm only gonna do this once. So I'll put the full list on screen. It's very long. I definitely made some important changes that I can't remember to explain. So, yeah. Now it is time to move on to cases. Starting with case 1, I think that's a perfect B tier. This is a classic case, not phenomenal, definitely not bad. Case 2, very similar actually. I feel like these cases kind of go hand in hand. I feel like case 1 teaches you how the game works, whereas I feel like case 2 teaches you how the storylines are going to go. Like, it's the standard for the plot twists, the investigations, the characters, the witnesses, all that stuff. The prosecutor, Miles. It introduces Miles, so it can't be that bad. Case 3 is definitely the worst in the original trilogy, but still, overall, decent. Case 4 is amazing. Case 4 is, of course, incredible. It's the last case. I'm pretty sure I can safely say that every last case, except for like 2 or 3, are going to be S tier because Ace Attorney just does endings so well. And I feel like case 4 of the first game does that, just exemplifies that perfectly. With that said, I feel like Case 5 is even better than Case 4. I've read in some places that people actually don't like this case. That's somewhere that it was just a demo for Apollo Justice. And while that's true, I still think this case is really good. It introduces Emma, Lana, Damon Gant, just really great characters with good backstory, good plot. I think it's really good. And I think it's a long case, done right. Because as we'll see, some cases are going to drag on too long, and that's going to be detrimental to the overall case. But this case is long as shit, and it still does it right, I feel like. This case is a first case done poorly, in my opinion. Phoenix lost his memories. Okay. I said done wrong isn't it's bad, but I'm putting it in C tier. It's still pretty decent. It's not that bad, but if you're playing the second game, you would be dumb not to have played the first game already. So I understand why they needed to include a tutorial, but you just shouldn't start anywhere with the first game anyways. So the tutorial handholding again was kind of dumb. Case 2 of the second game is really good. Even though the villains are really obvious, I feel like the biggest twist of the case was the fact that it was both of the people that you suspected instead of just one of them. Because when you're playing it, you're like, well, it's either Morgan or Eenie Meenie. It's one of the two. Turns out it was both. And the backstory of Eenie Meenie is really sad. So honestly, just really solid case. One of the most solid cases in the series. And this is not one of the most solid cases in the series. Turnabout, Big Top. I keep calling them Case 3, Case 1. I just remember Turnabout Big Top for some reason, just because I have to bring it up so much. Until I played Apollo Justice, this was known in my head as the only bad case I had ever played. All the characters are assholes, except for the killer, but he's the killer. So it's like, fuck. Case 4 is, we just keep topping ourselves, because Case 4, the second game, I think this case single-handedly saved the game for me, because Case 2 was really solid, but Case 1 and Case 3 were mediocre and bad, dare I say. But Case 4, the fact that your defendant actually is the killer is something that hadn't been tackled before, and while it can be done wrong, this case did not do it wrong. The fact that you have to, and you have to decide, it might be the only case where you can get a good or bad ending depending on what you present, and I think that's awesome. I wish the games had more choice like that. It takes place in such a small space, you don't investigate that many areas, so it's just so impressive that they managed to do so much with it. Really good case. This case is the best tutorial case in the game. They're the best first case, rather. Mostly because I can go back and play it, having played all the other Ace Attorney games, and still have a good time. Pretty sure they give you the option to do tutorial stuff, which is nice. And it feels pretty satisfying to figure it out at the end, despite being the first case. I felt pretty satisfied cornering Dahlia Hawthorne, and that was before I knew everything. I think the reason I like Trials and Tribulations so much, both of their filler cases are so good. And both of them are really funny and unique. With Case 2, you're investigating a thievery at first, and you're like, well, I've never done this before, and you get Luke at me, and you're like, well, is that it? And then it's not. You go into the second half, and it's a murder. And then it's just so comedic that Ron Delight ends up actually being Mask to Mask, which is hilarious, and then Luke at me doing the exact same breakdown again is just funny. So, just really solid. This, same thing. The fact that Furio Tigre got the cardboard badge in the suit, roared, and then somehow got through the case is amazing. The characters are really funny, absolutely ridiculous, which is how I can describe both of these cases, and it's amazing. They were made for me, dude. Case 4 and Case 1 kind of go hand in hand. Case 4 is really dark. When you go into the case, you know what's going to happen because they tell you that Mia failed her first case. But you still get hope. You still think you're going to get Dahlia in the end, but you don't. Bridge to Turnabout is the greatest case in the series. I know we have a lot to go, but I'm just saying it right now. This case is fantastic. And they say it perfectly in the little introductory graphic. All of the points, all of the parts, all the stories from the trilogy come to the single climax at the end of Trials and Tribulations. And that moment, when you know it's Godot, and you whip out your final piece of evidence, and the original corner theme plays, is potentially the greatest ending to any video game I've ever played. The ending to this is just incredible. And it could have ended the series. And it did, because after this they did Apollo Justice, which is pretty separate from the trilogy. And everything after that was never the same. This was the end of the trilogy. The end of Phoenix's story, the end of Maya's story. Wasn't the end of Edgeworth's story, but it was perfect, dude. This is near perfection, this case. Now we have the four swordsmen of what the fuck went wrong. Well, we'll start with the first case, which would be good if Phoenix wasn't holding your hand the entire time. I feel like the plot and like figuring it out is actually pretty enjoyable. The fact that it's actually your mentor character is pretty cool. But the problem is that it's at the beginning of the game, so you don't even get to know Kristoff before you know he's the villain, so there's no heartbreak. Like, imagine if Mia was the villain. That would freak me out. That would freak everyone out. But we never know anything about Kristoff before he turns out to be the villain, so it doesn't work. And the problem is that Phoenix handholds you the entire time. You don't solve this case, Phoenix does. You don't play the game in this case, and it's really... I don't know if it was meant to be a tutorial, but that's the thing. I think it is the most complicated first case in the series, and yet it feels the most handholdy. I had more fun, like I was talking about how this case felt handholdy. I had more fun solving this case than this case, because I fucking did it myself here. I didn't in this case, and that's my problem with it. I think this Turnabout Corner, I think it's called, is the best in Apollo Justice. That being said, it's still mediocre. It's just okay. I think the villain is overall pretty solid, but it's also been done before. I think the idea of like having to solve a bunch of different little things is pretty cool. I think the concept is really good in this case, but I think it falls a little short. This is the worst case in the game. Not only the worst case in the game, but it's the worst case in the series, dude. It's the same problem with Turnabout Big Top. The characters suck. None of them are likable, including your defendant, may I add. And my biggest gripe with this case is that you never get the villain. Sharkhead, I don't remember his name, Sharkhead Man. You don't win. You pull out bullshit, and then he freaks out, and you feel zero satisfaction. You don't have the evidence to corner him, and you failed. But you know what? We're gonna call up Machi, and he's gonna talk, because we said so, and then he freaks out. And there's just no satisfaction. And that leads me to not the worst case in the game, but the most disappointing, without question. Turnabout Succession had so much potential, and it squandered almost all of it. The idea of Phoenix having falsified evidence being set up is a good idea, but the fact that he fell for it is completely unrealistic considering what he's done up to this point. The fact that Kristoff was the killer all along, straight up just makes no fucking sense. First of all, his motive is bullshit. Just complete bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. And as I was saying, it has the same problem as the third case. At the end, you don't get Kristoff. You don't have the evidence. But then you just pull out some bullshit, he freaks out, and then hooray, you did it. But you really didn't. You kind of cheated. You really honestly cheated in this case. Or Phoenix did, rather. And it's just so out of character for Phoenix to do something like that. And it's just disappointing in every way. Which is crazy because Ace Attorney does endings so well. This is another really solid first case, I feel like. Getting the bomber guy, who turns out to also be the murderer. I think his name is Ted Tonate. Which is very, very hilarious, I know. The fact that Athena just isn't ready yet, so he has to call up Phoenix is pretty lame. But I was happy to be back with Phoenix after playing Apollo Justice and both investigation games. It just felt good to be back in the spiky-haired lawyer's shoes. I think Case 2 of Dual Destinies is honestly the most basic case in the entire series. They show you the killer at the very beginning, which is pretty lame, especially considering I think I would have known anyways. Florent LaBelle is one of the most obvious villains in the series, so they really didn't have to show me, but they just did anyways, so that just took away all the mystery. But it is still really solid. I don't have any complaints other than the fact that they showed the villain. I think it was still managed to still be a pretty solid case anyways, which is pretty impressive. It's weird, because I think every third case in the series has always had something wrong with it, I swear. Except for this one. This case Turnabout Academy is really, really good. All of the main characters that were used in it were really good. It was fantastic development for Athena. She finally managed to get on her own footing, and it was really impressive to watch. The twist at the end was great. They actually had me convinced that it was Hugh. It did come across my mind that it could be Professor Means, but we were cornering Hugh so much that I was like, is it really him? But then when he started confessing, I'm like, wait, but it can't be. It was a great reveal in the end that it was Professor Means, and I'm glad that it turned out the way that it did. Continuing the trend of the last case being just dummy good is Turnabout Space 1 and Turnabout for Tomorrow. It's going to put these cases together because they basically are two parts of the same storyline. Fantastic conclusion to both Athena and Blackwell's story. Athena just like Case 3, just evolving so much as a character. And Blackwell finally getting the justice that he deserves, that he was willing to give away. Just the idea of the Phantom and the reveal that it's Bobby Fulbright, but also not, is really good. It kind of does the same thing that Case 4 of the second game does, where you have a very simple basis, just a simple murder with not many places to investigate, but it just takes it to a whole nother level, and that's impressive. And I feel like the ending with the Phantom alone secures its spot in S tier. The DLC case is relatively solid. I think the twist at the end is a little weird. I think Marlon Rhymes is a relatively good villain, but it just also was like, I think it's almost a little too out of left field. But I do like how you end up saving him at the end. I think that is really cool. And of course, defending a whale is pretty funny at first. That is absolutely ridiculous, and I love it when Ace Attorney does that usually. I'm actually a fan of Case 1 of Spirit of Justice, mostly because it keeps things simple. It's you prosecuting Jesus with a ukulele, so yeah, I can't really complain there. This is another pretty solid. Both of these are pretty solid actually. I feel like this case is better. I think the thing that bogs this case down for me is the fact that there's only one investigation and one trial. If it was split into two things, I don't know how they do it. Obviously, they'd have to make the case more complicated to do that. But it just feels bare bones simply because of the fact that it's so much shorter. Still manages to be pretty solid with that in mind, though. This case is honestly not that good. Yeah, I think I'll put it at the bottom of C. The idea of having a killer where it was actually an accident, it's something that they tackled here, and it made sense, and it worked. With this case, she just got away after that, and they never mentioned that again, and it was weird. And the difference between DLC of Dual Destinies and this one was that, yeah, we spared him at the end, but we still felt the satisfaction when we did get him, and we felt even more satisfaction when we were able to save him. In this case, there was zero satisfaction. It just happened. He was like, oh yeah, it was believed. She did it. By the way. I was like, oh. Okay. Case 4 had the same problem as Case 2 of Spirit of Justice. And it's even worse, actually, because there's no investigation. It's just one trial. Why? I don't understand that. I genuinely don't. For a case, I get it for a second case, because they still at least had one investigation, and it wasn't that complicated. For this, they really could have done at least one investigation. They could have at least done what they did here, and done one investigation, one trial. There's no reason for it to be one trial. The trial itself, really solid, which is why I'm still placing it in B. But the fact that it's just one is just ridiculous, and that's like the main point that I'm driving home here, because just why? This last case is the most mediocre of the last cases. I think it's going to go here. I think this case is too long, without a doubt. The first trial, the first chapter, back in California/Japan/ wherever the fuck Phoenix lives, is not necessary. It's just not. Why is it there? I see that it leads into Igna, but they could have done that with like 5 minutes of dialogue. They could have just had Igna's call. It just wasn't necessary. I think, and here's the thing, I really liked that part. I think that part is just a really solid case in general. That could have just been its own case. And I know that would have made the game 6 cases, but who cares? I feel like that case was actually really good. And then the latter case was also pretty solid, although Raifa and Nayuta and Garen, I just don't like those characters as much as I like some other ones. So it was harder to get attached. And of course the elephant in the room, why is Apollo so important to this case? I don't understand it. I really don't. This game, Spirit of Justice, should have been called Apollo Justice. Ace Attorney, Spirit of Justice. Capcom has this thing, and they just can't stop doing it. They can't stop shoving Apollo randomly into shit for no reason. They did it in his very own game, which is interesting that he felt shoehorned into his own game. While I did like his inclusion in Dual Destinies, I must admit that he was pretty shoehorned in. And in Spirit of Justice, it's the worst case of all. It's like, he did not need to be a part of this. And I understand that Apollo Justice, Dual Destinies, and Spirit of Justice could be considered to be the Apollo Justice trilogy. Well, then they should have gone all the way in. They only dipped their toes into that. But they included Apollo enough to where it feels weird. I kind of got sidetracked there, but yeah. This is just a well-rounded, solid case. They probably heard the backlash from all the bullshit in the Spirit of Justice. I'm disappointed that they didn't go anywhere with the time travel. I understand that obviously they can't just make it a real thing, but it was kind of just brushed off to the side. But just having the old cast, as you can see here, just all the members of the old cast come back for one last hoorah until Ace Attorney 7, who knows, was pretty satisfying. And I liked the new characters that were introduced as well. Yeah, I guess I'll put it there. It's not the greatest. I don't know. I'm struggling to describe exactly why I like this other than the killer thing. I just get weird vibes from it. And that can actually describe Investigations 1 as a whole. Just weird vibes that I can't exactly explain fully. I think this case doesn't get enough credit. I think this case is actually pretty solid. I think the idea of it taking place on a plane is pretty cool. Even though the killer is pretty obvious, that's okay. Case 3, however, is dog shit. Hence, I mean, there's a dog wolf man on the front, so I guess it makes sense, because this case is dog shit. It's not good. The characters all suck. Like, why am I dotting around this entire theme park? I don't even know the scene of the murder till the very end, which is okay, usually, but here it's just like, what is happening? Why is any of it happening? Case 4 is probably the best case in Investigations 1. I feel like it's actually really solid. Callisto Yu is a good villain, despite what anyone says. And I feel like the reveal of her was actually pretty good. It was pretty well executed. I feel like the Yatakarasu was fun in general. Figuring out who it was, or what it was pretty interesting. And that this case built up the mystery for Case 5. That said, Case 5 has its problems. One, the elephant in the room, this case is way too long. This case is way too damn long. Wow, dude. It drags on, and it just doesn't, none of it needs to be there. Figuring out who the Yatagarasu was ended up being pretty cool. The idea that it was both is pretty cool. I feel like Detective Bad didn't need to be a part of it, in my opinion. Carcass Alba is an alright final villain, but that's the thing. It's just alright. And if you're gonna do an ending to an Ace Attorney game, you don't want to be just alright. You want to be fucking legendary. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, these are all ending cases. You need to be better than that. And now we're on, while Investigations 1 had its problems, Investigations 2 is where it really shines. Starting with Case 1, I think, combined with Trials and Tribulations, best intro case in the series. It's crazy because before I was talking about, oh, you know, it was a tutorial case, but I guess that's what it has to be because it's the first game in the series. This game? Nah. Cut the bullshit. You have played an Ace Attorney game before. If not, go buy another game. What are you doing? We're gonna give you a good-ass mystery. But it's still the first case, so it's not gonna be ridiculously complicated. But I genuinely thought that it was Shelly the killer at first. And then it just expanded. And that caught me off guard. After playing Investigations 1, I was wary going into Investigations 2. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But this case let me know, nah dude, this game is gonna be a mystery. You're never gonna, more than any other game in the series, and you're not gonna know what the fuck is going on. And that's why I love Investigations 2 in general so much, and this case set the standard for that. Case 2, I think, is the worst case. That's the thing, I still place it ridiculously high, like there. Since you're not going in the courtroom, Investigations 2 in particular took advantage of stuff going on around you while you're doing your investigation. So an example is Boxer guy, I don't remember his name, but he made his escape and you get to see all these events transpire and it's really cool. Doggin is a great character. Patricia Rowland, I feel like I actually liked her better with her motivations from this case than I do at the end of the game. I feel like it was better for her to be traumatized by Doggin. I liked that motivation more than her just ending up being a douchebag, which is one of my few complaints with Investigations 2. Case 3 is another fantastic reminiscence case. This case is one of the only cases in the series where you actually split up the reminiscence part and the modern part, and I really like it when they do that. Surprisingly, I actually liked that Turnabout Succession. It was in the finale where everything got screwed up, where I was like mad. But I actually like the idea of going back, seeing what happened, playing it out, and then going to solve it in the present. Playing as Gregory was awesome. It was badass. I think the mystery is also really good. Dane Gustavia surprisingly came out of left field for me, even though I feel like it really shouldn't have, it did. And I really like the theme, just cakes and desserts and stuff. I think that's really interesting as a basis for a murder scene. Case 4 is also really good. All these cases are good. Jesus Christ, Investigations 2 needs to chill. But this case, with Kay losing her memories, a lot of people didn't really like Kay as much. I liked her in Investigations 1, but there are a lot of people that didn't like her very much from Investigations 1, from what she had to offer. This case changed everyone's mind. At least I think so. That's what I would think. Because making her lose her memories, you have to try and restore them. You really, really care about Kay. And you want her to be safe. Blaise de Best is a great villain. Kind of like Caracas Alba, but done better, or Damon Gant, in the sense of there's these large authoritative figures that can bend the law if they see fit, and that is an amazing kind of villain archetype to take down. The evidence room in particular is just really cool. It's just fan service, I know, but I like it a lot. That leads us to our final case. The Grand Turnabout, which is the second best case in the game, or in the series rather, just because it's fucking Avengers Endgame, dude. Somehow they managed to connect everything, and I mean everything, from the past cases, and it all made sense. Every other game in the series, we can find and pinpoint a filler case that was, in the end, unrelated. Game 1, Turnabout Samurai. Game 2, we had Where's It At? Turnabout Big Top. Game 3, we had both of these cases. Apollo Justice, we had Turnabout Corner 5, we had Turnabout Academy, and Game 6, we had both of these. But in Investigations 2, none of the cases are completely unrelated. Everything gets connected in this case, and it all makes sense. Horace Knightley, Patricia Rowland, Simon Keyes, they somehow all get connected. And the grand finale, where I said this already, but Simon Keyes was an insane reveal as the final villain. And I would have never seen it coming in a million years, dude. Greatest reveal in the series. The first part of the case, too, where it's just the prologue. I was talking about how I didn't like the first part of this case, because I felt like it didn't need to be there. The first part of Grand Turnabout actually felt necessary, where, Blaise de Best would try and cheat the court system after you've proved that he's the murderer. So you have to go in there and stop him from doing it. And Sebastian's redemption was ridiculously good. Grand Turnabout, dude. Really good. Alright, that's it for the cases. I'm going to do some reorganization real quick, and then I'll see you back in a minute here. Alright, that's the refined tier list, so now it's time to move on to the music. One of the things that makes Ace Attorney as Ace Attorney is, without a doubt, the music. You have exciting tracks, you have depressing tracks, you have happy as hell tracks, you have weird tracks. I think I literally like every single song in every single game, except for this shit. So I don't think we will be seeing anything go below B, if I'm gonna be honest. Mate, yeah. Because all these soundtracks are just so good, dude. Starting off, Ace Attorney 1. We already have the best game. This soundtrack is timeless. It's so classic. It's classical. It can't be beat, dude. Of course, have the Cornered theme, which has been used so many times. The Objection theme is amazing. DL6 is depressing as hell. Of course, this introduced Maya's theme. It's classic. There's not a single song that isn't remembered fondly to this day by Ace Attorney fans, and some non-Ace Attorney fans. I think Justice for All has the weakest overall soundtrack, and that being said, it's still B tier because it's still really good. Some of the key songs just feel weird. I think a perfect example is the Pursuit theme. It just, compared to every other Pursuit theme in the series, it just feels weirder. And I don't really know how to explain it, but it's just how it is. But it still is B tier because it still has songs like Corrine Village, Matt Engarde, both of Matt Engarde's songs. The Objection theme is another one of my favorites. It's still a really good soundtrack. And the Turnabout Sisters theme is actually probably my favorite version, I'd say. So yeah, next up is Trials and Tribulations. I think that is perfectly in the middle between these two. I think it has some absolutely phenomenal songs that are probably better than some of my favorites in Phoenix Wright, the original. I think, obviously, you have Godot's theme, Fragrance of Dark Coffee, which is sex the song. It's sex to your ears, dude. It's so good. The Corner theme is also really good. Masked and Masks theme and Luke Atney's theme are both slaps. Furio Tigres is also a slap. It's just really solid. Despite my ill will towards Apollo Justice, its soundtrack is really good. The Corner theme, incredible. The Objection theme, incredible. So incredible that it's been remade like 6 times. Trucy's theme is pretty good. What's it called? Guilty Love. That's it. Despite the fact that it plays 1,000 times, I still think it's a really good song. I think Solitary Confinement is good. I actually really like the art theme for Miss Sham, Drew Miss Sham. I actually really like that song. Honestly, just a really good soundtrack. It just feels energetic. You can feel the upgrade from the GBA to the DS. I think Dual Destinies is super close to beating Phoenix, to beating the original. Actually, you know what? Yeah. Dual Destiny's soundtrack is so good. If you could feel the upgrade from the GBA to the DS with Apollo Justice, then you could doubly so feel the upgrade from the DS to the 3DS orchestrated soundtrack in Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Dual Destinies. Everything just sounds epic and grand. All 3 of the Objection themes. Courtroom Revolutionnaire was introduced, and that's quickly become one of my favorite songs in the series. Simon's theme is really good. The Phantom's theme, how it switches between so many different genres to show how he has an identity crisis, that's amazing. Telling a story with music is pretty difficult. The Phantom's theme does that. I think the theme that plays when Scuttlebutt is around, and I think DePlume as well, is actually one of my favorites, just because the energy is just so powerful in that. It's one of my favorites, just because of how funny it is. Here, I'll play a little bit right now. I genuinely didn't think that anything would be beating the original today, but when I think long and hard about it, Dual Destiny's soundtrack just can't be beaten, dude. Spirit of Justice is gonna go right here, and it does the same thing as Dual Destiny's, but with one difference. All the songs that play when you're in Corrine, they all use very similar instrumentation. Obviously there are some exceptions to this, but they all use very similar instrumentation, meaning that the soundtrack kind of actually blends together. When I was playing the 3rd case, I honestly couldn't tell the difference between some of the themes, like the town theme, Raifa's theme, the investigation theme. I couldn't tell the difference at some points. The themes back at home, though, were incredibly solid. I think if all of the songs were like the ones back at home, then it might surpass the original. The Corner theme is one of the weaker in the series, which is another thing that holds it back, but overall, really solid. Investigations 1 is gonna probably go with Justice for All. I think, as you saw earlier, I think it has the only truly bad songs in the series, which is something that I never thought I'd be hearing. After playing the original trilogy and Apollo Justice, I really didn't think I'd hear any bad songs, but Investigations proved me wrong. The song for interesting people and noisy people are both just ear-grating at times. The corner theme is interesting. I actually like it quite a lot. I think it fits Edgeworth's more sophisticated attitude, but I still think with that said, it's still one of the weaker in the series. Still some pretty great songs though. Gumshoe's remix is really, really nice. I like Shilong Lang's and Kei's theme a lot, and the Yatakarasu's theme is probably my favorite theme. That song is really good. And finally we have Investigations 2, which is another S tier. I think I'm gonna move down Apollo Justice down there now that I'm comparing them to the... I think it really does the best that the DS games have to offer. The corner theme is one of the best in the series. Objection theme is a major improvement from the original Investigations game. And basically all the character themes are good. Dane Gustavia's, Blaise Deveste, Justine Courtney's, both of Sebastian's themes in just the energy that they show. Sebastian's theme going from a whiny little flute tune into a full orchestrated, powerful song was powerful. And another example of music being able to tell a story in this series. Raymond Shield's theme is really good. Probably my favorite from the game, either that or the corner theme. Because that song just has maximum energy, and it is awesome. That wraps it up for the soundtracks, and now we're going to the grand finale, the games themselves. And now we have the end-all, be-all, the games themselves. Now, I think I'm gonna do this from bottom to top, just to since there aren't that many options to choose from as opposed to characters, for example, and because it creates a little bit of build-up. With that said, starting at the bottom, the only one in D tier, Apollo Justice. In case you couldn't tell from some other points that I brought up, this game isn't good. There's one mediocre case, and the rest are just bad. I don't like any of the characters in this game, including returning ones. Phoenix and Emma both just turn into assholes. And thank God they returned to their former selves in Dual Destinies and Spirit of Justice. Clavier is a terrible prosecutor. Not a bad character, but a terrible prosecutor. Christoph Gavin is a mess. Trucy is boring as hell. They make her better in Spirit of Justice, but she's boring as hell in this game. And the plot is just awful. Like I was talking about in the cases earlier, nothing makes sense. The jury system is dumb. You only really catch Attila in this game. Christoph just ends up being caught by Phoenix, and Shark Boy just goes down to some bullshit. That's about it. There's nothing in this game. Compared to the former glory and the future glory that this series would have, Apollo Justice is the only blemish. After going over the only bad game in the series, we have the only mediocre game in the series, and that's Investigations 1. This game is just okay. As you saw with the cases, and the music actually, it has its ups and downs. I feel like the fourth case and the last case are pretty good, but the other cases have their problems. I feel like the second case is also pretty good. Some of the characters are just way off. Some things reek of the Apollo Justice energy of just making no sense and just why is it there. Overall, the only mediocre game in the series. Next up is actually Spirit of Justice. The filler cases not being long enough is a big problem. The last case being too long is also a problem. It just tried to introduce some new things into the series. I really am not a fan of the divination seances. All the other mechanics that they've introduced throughout the series are okay. I'm actually okay with Apollo Justice's bracelet mechanic. I think it's alright. But the divination seance, I genuinely really didn't like that much. A lot of the characters like Reifa and Nayuta just feel really underdeveloped, and I'm really just not a fan of either of them very much. Apollo feels needlessly shoehorned in, as I mentioned before, and overall it just has some issues, and that's enough to bring it down a few notches. Just because this series has such high highs that even a few problems can rank it lower compared to the other games. The last game on here that's going to be anything but pure praise is Justice for All. And it's really just because of one reason, and it's Turnabout Big Top. That case is bad. I feel like that last case keeps it up with the original trilogy as one of the greats. If it weren't for that case, this game may be lower. But overall, second case, I loved the expansion of the Fae universe, of the Fae cinematic universe, even though it's not cinematic, but
Shut up!
I love the expansion of Edgeworth's story, I love the introduction of Francisca. This game did a lot right, and so that manages to keep it higher than these other games. Next up's probably going to be the first A tier, and that's Dual Destinies. This game surprised me, actually. After playing the original trilogy, I played Apollo Justice, Investigations 1, and then Investigations 2. Investigations 2 was obviously very high for me, as you can see by the fact that I haven't selected it yet. So I wasn't sure what to think of Dual Destinies. How were they going to make bringing back Phoenix make sense? And who's this new Athena character? And isn't Black Will just going to be edgy Shadow the Hedgehog bootleg? Turns out all of my suspicions ended up being calmed as I played the game, which makes sense. Turns out Athena is amazing. Black Will is amazing. They managed to make Apollo and Trucy likable characters, which is something that Apollo Justice failed to do. I love the mood matrix as a mechanic. I think out of all the additional mechanics that they added to the series between bracelets and Cyclops, I think mood matrix is my favorite. I just have a lot of fun. I always get excited every time when I did a case and I saw Athena say it's time for a therapy session, because I'm like, alright, it's fun. I don't know why I get such a kick out of it. I think it just adds a lot of depth, I feel like, seeing how they actually feel, because that is a genuine part of the case. The Phantom, as a concept, is just fascinating to me. The filler cases are both really solid. I really have no complaints with this game. And of course, the soundtrack is, I think, the best. Next up is going to be the original game. And you really can't go wrong with anything in this game. Everything is at least solid. The soundtrack is incredible, and of course it set the standard for everything. This is where it all began. This is where we got Edgeworth, Phoenix, Gumshoe, Maya, even Emma. There were no gimmicks, there were no bracelets or Cyclops or Mood Matrix or Divination Seances or Logic. It was just tried and true, figure it out mystery game, and it was awesome. You really can't go wrong with the original, there's not much more to say. Coming in number 2 is Investigations 2. This game surprised me in a major way. After playing Investigations 1 and just having subpar thoughts, I was like, okay, Investigations 2 can't be that good, right? I was wrong. Investigations 2 is amazing. And out of every game in the series, Investigations 2 feels more than any other game like a mystery. You never know what's going to happen. Unless you're just assuming, maybe I'm just fucking retarded, who knows, and the world may never know what the official translation would be like, but I can at least stand for the fan translation that I played, that this game is worth your time. But I always felt like I was left off guard, and that's impressive, because I played 6 Ace Attorney games before this, and so I felt like I definitely had figured it out. And I feel like Investigations 1 only confirmed my thoughts, because I basically knew everything that was going to happen in that game. Spare Callisto U, I believe. But this game, holy shit, dude. This game is sick. So yeah, Investigations 2 is incredible. And finally, the grand finale to the trilogy is definitely my favorite in the series. Trials and Tribulations is the perfect visual novel. As the conclusion to the original trilogy, Trials and Tribulations ends things off perfectly. Godot is incredible. Playing as Mia is incredible. Dahlia is an incredible villain. The filler cases are so fun and unique. The soundtrack is still super good. It expanded on the Fey lineage of Khura'in, much like Justice for All. Except for even more. The ending to Trials and Tribulations will forever be one of the most influential endings I have ever experienced. It is something else. As I mentioned before, when the corner theme comes in, the only time a lord can cry is when it's all over.
When things seem like they're the most hopeless, that's when we can laugh. And when everything is over, it's time to cry.
This game encapsulates everything that I love about this series, and that's why it deserves the #1 spot. So those are my opinions. If you disagree with them, you're wrong. It's okay. And bye.